Hey everyone, the Enneamentalist here, and today we're gonna talk about Enneagram Type 3.
It's a herd type born from the tension between 2 and 4. Being part of the Earth Center, threes are initiating type, and like the other types in the Earth Center, there is a characteristic of image feeling, being compliant, being heartfelt, and emoting. Although for three, it's more correct to say that threes tend to modulate their emotions. But I will get to that later. The idealized self-image of three is all about being successful, competent, focused, goal-oriented, polished, go-getter, as well as about being the best, admirable, results-oriented. This counters their fear of failure, being unimpressive, being incapable, being the second best, being unmasked, being an incompetent, being inefficient, etc. It's interesting to notice how for free it's of the utmost importance to be seen as the very best in the field that they choose. It's devastating for a free to arrive second. It bothers free so much that they will later leave a specific environment in which they aren't the very best for an environment that gives them a better chance to be the very best.
Type 3s primarily use identification to maintain a self-image of being positive, competent, and successful. They adapt to external expectations and align with successful role models, often taking on characteristics that reflect what is admired or valued. This defense allows them to project success and competence, but can cause them to lose touch with their authentic self in the process.
Type 3s tend to fear being unmasked, and usually the unmasking will come from a 6 or from an 8. There is nothing wrong in having a figure that inspires you to be better, but 3s should remember about the importance of their own emotional experience rather than just parroting their role models' words. The main focus of type 3 is about what is the best, with a speech style focused on promoting, wooing, modeling success, first being characterized by a mindset of efficiency, focused individuals that want to be the very best. As such, threes represent the image of success in whatever they do. They tend to dress in a sleek way, making sure to have a sharp, refined image. Three tend to read the expectation of others and adapt themselves so that they are seen as the best from the other person. Notice that three do still have emotion, but often tend to have problem with their emotional side because of how much focus they put in achievements and modulating emotion, often to the point of an underappreciation of the emotional side and the wisdom that it provides. Threes tend to be positive, go-getters, fascinated by social ideal, tend to have polished attires, as well as wanting to appear professional. In dealing with a type 3, remember to tell them that you're proud of them, to love them for who they are, as well as be direct and concise when communicating with them. avoid being overly emotional, pointing out the failures of the three, and interrupting whilst they are working. There are three instinctual subtypes of type 3. Pun intended. 3. Self-preservation. They can resemble ones at times, and in particular, this subtype has less drive compared to the other two in impressing with sexual appeal, sexual freeze, or social status, social freeze. On the positive side, they are hardworking, productive, time efficient, goal oriented, pragmatic, like ones. They tend to keep themselves physically fit and healthy. They tend to provide financial security and stability to others. They tend to be responsible, willing to make sacrifices, detail-oriented, thrifty, like ones. They tend to be good team players, getting along well with others. They tend to be conscientious about planning for the future, for themselves and for their loved ones, like ones. They tend to like to continuously learn, and they tend to be into self-improvements, like ones. On the negative side, they might be workaholic, strongly identified with their work, like ones and eights. They might work long hours to preserve their security and mitigate anxieties, like sixes. They might fear scarcity. They might obsess about wanting symbols of success, depending on the standards of the society they live in. So like specific designer clothes, big house, etc. They might neglect relationships and or health due to heavy workload. They might deceive themselves and others by projecting an affluent image. They might feel life-threatening to lose their job or assets, or from illness that stop them from working. They can have trouble taking time off from work, relaxing, or even slowing down, similar to ones. And at worst, they might have anxiety attacks, being burned out from work, and have a nervous breakdown. Sexual free. They might resemble sexual six, as both are interested in strength, physical or intellectual, and beauty. On the positive side, they know how to look attractive, like working out, eating well, pay attention to grooming style, etc. Some might choose a job that help others becoming more attractive. They tend to be skilled in one-on-one relating because they are authentic and real rather than pretentious. They are tendentially ambitious and are working. On the negative side, they might want desperately to be ideal in every way, but they can't play different roles simultaneously. They might feel the need to be the ideal gender role model for their culture. They might try to allure and impress a romantic interest with their charisma, success, magnetism, and confidence. They might cultivate whatever qualities valued others find appealing and desirable. They tend to want to be envied for having a picture perfect relationship with someone successful, prestigious, and attractive. They might tend to be seductive, desire to be valued, wanted, and desired. They might change their behavior in any way necessary to keep their partner interest in them. Like, for instance, changing their dressing style to match the idea of best fashion of the partner. They might fear being rejected, like choose and force. They might fear being able to live up to the image they're projecting, like the sexual choose. They might crave, yet fear, intimacy due to feeling deep down undesirable, like sexual choose and force. They might be show-offs that strongly identify with their image. They might pursue sexual conquests subconsciously because they tend to believe it will bolster their self-esteem. They don't. And at worst, they can be vindictive, jealous, promiscuous, rageful, and exhibitionistic. Social free. On the positive side, they tend to be diplomatic and polite, ambitious and self-confident. They tend to get along well with individuals and groups that are very different from each other. They tend to have excellent social and interpersonal skills. Thus, they are often amazing networkers. They tend to be charismatic and charming, personable and outgoing. They tend to give their time, energy, and money at times to improve the condition for others or the world. They might be aware of group expectation but have enough self-esteem to do what's best for them, and they tend to always have others' people's welfare in mind as well as their own. On the negative side, they might seek adulation and recognition from others. They might socially compare themselves with others. They are strongly identified with their social role. They might adapt and compromise themselves to look good and fit in. They tend to like being in high-profile position, desiring fame. They tend to maintain a social standard of appropriateness at all times, even when speaking out is necessary. They tend to put a lot of importance in credentials, degrees, licenses, awards, titles, certification, considering them to be extremely important to have. They tend to consider very important to have prestige and a good reputation. They tend to believe that they are only as good as what they achieve. They can be overly competitive and self-promoting. They might feel the need to prove themselves as anxiety about their social status increases. They might even take credit for others' people's work and or exaggerating their success, fame, wealth. And at their worst, they might become completely dishonest, exploitative, phony, and desperate for attention. I hope you enjoyed this video and you found it informative. And if you haven't already, make sure to smash the subscribe button and to turn notification bell on to never miss any future educational video about the topic of reading people, and support me on Patreon. I will do my best.